Nassourdine Imavov versus Caio Borralho may be one of the most interesting #1 contender fights of the year. And what makes it even more interesting is that there is another #1 contender fight going on just a month later in the same exact division. Because of this, there is a ton of added pressure against both guys in this fight. And today, I'll be going over both of the game plans for both of these guys, my fight breakdown, and my final prediction, as well as some of the outside factors in this fight. Now, starting off with the outside factors, that nearly all of them do favor Imavov. For starters, it's in France, so the crowd will favor him. And because of this, the judges will favor him. Caio weighed in as the backup for 319, which was originally supposed to be Imavov, but he turned it down to focus on this fight. And cutting weight twice in 3 weeks just isn't smart. Caio has been extremely inactive, while Imavov has been fighting a ton. But with all this being said, Caio is still the slight favorite, and it still is a really close fight. And I think Imavov is a very interesting fighter where he is pretty inconsistent in a lot of areas. Starting off with cardio. So against Strickland, his cardio looked pretty good in a 5-rounder. It was a crazy fight, very high output from both guys, and it looked like he was slowing down, but he still was able to win the 5th round against Sean Strickland. And against Dolidze, he 10-8'd Dolidze in the 1st round, nearly finished him, and then he still was able to win the championship rounds. But against Brendan Allen in the 3rd round, he looked completely dead, completely gassed. And while maybe this was a little bit more high output, the 1st round was pretty slow. And I do think he gassed because of the amount of takedowns he had to defend. But the reason he won is because Allen was shooting so many takedowns and he ended up gassing himself out, causing Imavov to win the fight. And even with the title shot being on the line, I don't think either guy is going to be super reckless. I don't think Borralho is going to be shooting like 50 takedowns like Marab. So while I do think Caio does have the better cardio, I don't think it's going to play a massive role in this fight. Another inconsistent area for Imavov is his grappling. He was able to take down Chris Curtis 3 times, which is pretty impressive because Curtis has very good takedown defense. Against Allen, his takedown defense again looked pretty good, but it is pretty worrisome because Allen took him down in the 1st round almost immediately and controlled him for the rest of the round. In rounds 2 and 3, his takedown defense looked great. His takedown defense looked good against Dolidze, but Dolidze isn't very good at getting the fight to the ground unless you're Kevin Holland, who has no takedown defense. Caio is dangerous on the ground, but in his recent fights, he mainly just strikes. And I don't expect him to come out there like Khamzat, shooting a million takedowns and getting them very easily. Plus, the guys that he's taken down aren't at the level of Imavov's grappling. So with that being said, I think it's mainly going to be a striking matchup. I think both guys have pretty good chins and are pretty durable, but Imavov clearly has the better power. He's knocked out more high-level guys compared to Borralho. And I think both guys are pretty good on the feet, and this is kind of a mirror matchup in some ways because both guys are very well-rounded. But getting into the game plans for both guys and how I see the fight going. For Borralho, he needs to outpoint Imavov on the feet. The bigger shots will come from Imavov. Adesanya did a pretty good job at doing this until he got caught. He was outpointing Imavov. He was throwing a ton of volume. And Borralho does have good cardio, so I do think he should be able to do this over 5 rounds. And he needs to do a better job of mixing in the grappling compared to Allen, who did a horrible job of mixing in the grappling with the striking. To try to gas out Imavov, he needs to clinch a ton, get him to the fence. Cannonier was able to do this, and Cannonier definitely is not as big as Borralho. He could waste time here, try to gas out Imavov, and get him thinking of the grappling, even though Imavov's takedown defense against the fence is pretty good, so I don't think Borralho is really going to score anything here. Imavov also doesn't check leg kicks, and Borralho was throwing a ton of them against Jared Cannonier, so I think he's going to be landing a ton of those. And he needs to avoid the pocket. He was getting caught against Jared Cannonier in the pocket, especially early on. He's pretty good at distance, landing jabs, kicks, body kicks. Him being in the southpaw stance is going to help him land the body kick against Imavov, who's mainly an orthodox fighter. And he needs to mix in his grappling at the end of his combinations, get Imavov thinking about the striking, and at the very end, shoot the takedown and preferably get him down in the middle of the octagon. And for Imavov, he obviously needs to avoid the grappling. Caio is more dangerous here, and on the feet, he needs to keep it simple, throw the straight shots down the middle. He's super fast. But getting into my final prediction and why I'm picking Imavov to win the fight, and the sole reason is because of the Jared Cannonier fight with Borralho. And there's many reasons why. Jared was coming off of a TKO loss against Imavov, and he did not look as good in the Borralho fight compared to the Imavov fight just a few months before. Caio was able to win the 1st round just off of leg kicks mainly, just slightly outpointing him. And Imavov is great at countering countering leg kicks with straight shots. We saw this against Cannonier. He may not be great at checking them, but he does a very good job of, if you don't set up the leg kick, he's going to throw something down the middle. And he caught Jared because of this multiple times. And in the first couple of rounds, when Caio was getting close to Jared in the boxing range, he was losing almost every single exchange. And outside of the leg kicks and occasional jabs, he wasn't really doing much. And I think Imavov is much more durable compared to Cannonier, where I don't think the moments in round 3 and 5 where he got hurt would happen to Imavov. I think Imavov is the better boxer of the two, and I think he's more powerful than Jared Cannonier, where Cannonier, I think his power is a little bit overrated. I know everyone talks about how he used to be a heavyweight, but he's not really a knockout artist. I know the Gregory Rodriguez fight may make people disagree, but he mainly got that knockout because Gregory was so gassed out, and he has one of the worst chins at middleweight. He gets hurt in almost every single one of his fights. Caio was also getting caught with so many big straight shots, where Imavov is a lot faster than Cannonier and a lot more powerful, where I think it's going to be a little bit more effective for Imavov. And Caio did start doing really good when he started walking down Cannonier towards the later rounds, but that also was after Cannonier got hurt, where I can see Caio walking down Imavov at moments, but mainly just clinching, and I don't think he's going to get any takedowns from this. He'll get control time, but no real damage, and if Imavov is able to land the more damaging strikes, especially in France, they're going to give him the round. But I think unless Caio has massively improved, because he hasn't fought in almost a year, I just think that it's going to be mainly a striking matchup, and I think he's just too simple for Imavov, and I think Imavov is definitely the better striker of the two. Now, Caio can still win. This still is a very 50-50 fight, even though I am going to be picking Imavov by decision, probably like a 49-46, 48-47. If Caio can stay safe, land the jab, land the leg kick, set up the kicks, and then try to gas him out, pushing him against the fence, landing knees to the body in the clinch, landing body kicks, and maybe getting the occasional takedown in close rounds, he probably can win, but I just don't see that happening, and I do think Imavov is going to win the fight. Let me know who you're picking, what you disagree with, who you're picking in the comments. Let me know.